You're listening to Cross Rhythms Plymouth 96.3 FM, and I've got the privilege of being joined online by a local artist, Southwest-based musician, Laura Goldthorp. Hey, Laura.
Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. It's great to be chatting. We've kind of connected before. You played at our showcase not too long ago, which was great. And that was kind of the first time I met you, kind of connected with you through the ladies at Field Lily. So it's great to have you here to kind of chat a bit more about your music and about some kind of latest projects for you and things. But by way of an introduction for those who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm Laura, and I am a songwriter. So I write for other people, and also for like my own artist project. So yeah, I've been doing that for a little while now. But during the time of kind of making music and releasing music, I became a Christian. So yeah, my music now is much more kind of faith-based, kind of more sort of come from my walk with the Lord. And yeah, so it's maybe slightly more not worship music, but more kind of like Christiany music.
Mm.
So yeah, and I live in Exeter, and I'm also a worship leader at a church in Exeter. So yeah, that's
Amazing.
me.
So music is kind of like a huge part of your life at every different angle, whether it's writing for yourself, writing for other people, writing worship songs, singing worship songs. It's kind of music all across the whole thing.
I guess so, yeah. I love it. And I tried to quit actually in 2021 after
Oh,
COVID.
really?
And then I just found that opportunities just kept coming and I was like, well, clearly God doesn't want me to. So yeah, I'm
Mm.
just still kind of ticking away and I love it. But yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So good. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about your kind of journey in music. And obviously, as you say, it like kind of tracks your journey of faith. I love how for lots of artists and for you, obviously, this is the case that like you're writing music just basically from your heart. So you're writing what's kind of big in your life at that point, what's kind of stuff that you're wrestling with or thinking about or pondering on or kind of living through. And so obviously coming to faith is such a major thing. So obviously that would transfer into your music and into the way that you want to express yourself through music. So before we go into the kind of bigger picture of your journey through that, talk to us about your latest work in this particular song, The Swell, which we're going to hear in just a little bit. Tell us a little bit about some of those latest tracks you've been releasing.
Yes, so back in June, I released a song called The Swell, which is kind of a song, it's a bit of a meditation on suffering and kind of asking the question, is there any sort of purpose and goodness that can come from times of struggle? And yeah, I kind of wrote it actually a while ago after I heard that a friend had died, and yeah, just kind of thinking about that and all the kind of ripples that happen and after sort of a big tragedy. And then this year I also had like a big kind of personal tragedy, I guess. I kind of wanted to release the song as the first song of the EP because I felt like it was really important and speaking into something that a lot of people experience,
Mm.
Christian or not. And so, yeah, that song was really kind of just seemed like sort of serendipitous timing for a lot of people who I knew that were going through stuff and kind of looking for ways to find hope. And to see that there would be beauty that came from their suffering. So yeah, that's what the Swell is about. And actually, today I just released another song called Nazare, which is also kind of on the surfing theme. I feel like we chatted about this at
Yeah,
the
yeah.
showcase, but that's more of a song about kind of the beauty of God in the big and the small, and just I guess yeah, my songs are always about kind of finding God in the places that you might not think you'd find him. I guess, but yeah, I hope that makes
Mm.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the surfing side we could go into on a personal note, but like that might be a bit esoteric for the most of the listeners.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I love the kind of surfy references and yeah, we chatted about that personally at the showcase, just how surfing kind of, fills our lives in a great way. But yeah, the swell. So we're going to play that now. Listen to it. So we'll stop for that track, have a listen to it, and then talk a bit more with Laura about that song, kind of a bit more on kind of where it came from and some of the stuff she's touched on there, and some other bits and pieces with Laura right after this. You're listening to Cross Rhythms Plymouth 96.3 FM and on DAB. That's the bit I always forget. Listen on DAB as well, locally. So I'm speaking with Laura Goldthorp, who is a musician here in the Southwest, based out of Exeter. Whole life is basically music, whether it's writing your own songs, writing other people's songs, doing worship music for your church, all that kind of stuff. which is awesome. And we've just heard your latest track, or one of your most recent songs, the Swell. And you kind of alluded to the fact that you've been going through a difficult time recently. I know that it's been a really challenging time for you and your partner. I don't know if you want to go into that to any level, but what is really interesting to me that we were talking about off air is you wrote this song actually before that time of suffering, which you kind of mentioned in that last section. Which is really interesting because it sounds as though it was inspired by that, but actually it preceded that in time in kind
Mm.
of your timeline. I don't know if you want to speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, of course. Well, I wrote the song maybe a year and a half ago, sort of in the wake of hearing that a friend from my childhood had died.
Mm.
And that was kind of like a time of really meditating on suffering and yeah, why we are put through suffering on this earth. And then I kind of had the song ready to go. And normally, when you're releasing an EP, the music industry kind of advises you to put out your like most fun, boppy,
Right.
upbeat song first. And but I just felt God being like, you need to release the Swell. Like
Wow.
this needs to be the first song. And I was like, oh, this is going against everything that everyone says, but I'll just do it. I'll be obedient. I'll give you my yes. And then kind of during that time before the song was due to be put out, me and my husband lost a baby quite a horrible way. It was very late on in kind of the middle of my pregnancy, so it was almost kind of like a stillbirth,
Mm.
and it was really like a dark time. But I had to release this song like a month or two
Mhm.
after it happened, so I was kind of like forced to really reckon with the lyrics that I'd written and actually kind of be like, oh, now I have to live this. Like I have to kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, like believe what I'd written all those like months and months ago. And it was actually a real comfort. And what I realized in kind of re-engaging with the song and the lyrics, in the midst of my suffering, which is the first kind of big suffering I've ever experienced really in my life, was that actually lots of people really needed to hear this message of there being kind of like a holy purpose in suffering on this earth. And actually it makes us more like Jesus. It makes us have, character and hope and perseverance, all those things that it says in, I think it's Romans. So and God draws really close. Like when you have a loss or you experience suffering or a tragedy, whether that's like a kind of small thing or a big long thing, I think God increases his presence in our lives and he draws really close and he replaces whatever we've lost with more of himself. And I just felt like that song kind of spoke to that. And just that idea that we have to kind of hold on, and persevere. And yeah, so that's kind of what the song's about. And it is, yeah, it's funny because a lot of people think I did write it sort of out of my experience, but I have to say to them actually it's quite an old song. It
Yeah.
just, the timing all kind of fitted together, and I was able to speak about my experience and kind of talk about my faith and how it helped me through it. So I think it was like a good evangelism opportunity as well. So yeah,
Yeah. It's an
that's the
amazing,
story.
yeah, it's an amazing story, and I really appreciate you being, honest enough to share that. I know people listening to this will have gone through that same situation, and deeply painful, deeply personal, and very traumatic. But to hear that story, just to me makes the song even more powerful. Like to hear, as you say, the way that you had to wrestle with it, the way that you penned it with a measure of suffering. Obviously, losing a childhood friend is very painful in and of itself. So it's not like that wasn't suffering anyway. But then I imagine like it must have been hard to hear the lyrics, but also they must have like almost ministered to you in a roundabout way. Kind of, was that the case? Did you listen to it and think, wow, yeah, okay, now I get what I meant by that, or now I get what God was trying to
Yeah.
say to me through that sort of thing in a bit more of a profound way, sort of.
Definitely. I guess with the kind of a childhood friend dying, there was a sense of a little bit of removal. Obviously, it was still very sad, and it really rocked the community that I was from. But I think it was there was like this sort of distance that I could kind of think a bit more. I could think a bit more about suffering and why it happened, and kind of really feeling for their sort of family. But then when something so personal like happens, like losing a baby, it's like so close.
Mm.
It's so near and you can't escape it and you can't really even have the words to describe what it's like. And it's almost like I was given the words to articulate the experience that I would have later on.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
I've not answered your question,
No, that's
but yeah.
perfect. That really, really speaks to it because I think that's, hearing, like you said, the whole package of it. You can kind of see God in the midst of it, just being with you, being present with you, speaking through that song, and then also allowing you to, just through releasing the song, which was already there, already recorded in the past. So like at times people can listen to it and it doesn't have to be you there in front of them
Yeah.
talking, because obviously you're processing stuff as well. But like
Yeah.
you wrote is ministering to people, speaking to people. And then as you say, like when people speak to you about it, or if you have speaking opportunities, like you're able to really put that
Yeah,
into kind
exactly.
of practice and stuff. So it's amazing. And I, you know, when I mentioned this to you on email, like when you played it at the showcase, I was like pretty much in tears because it was just really
Oh.
relevant to what I'd gone through with difficulties with family health situations and other situations in the last sort of like 3, 4, 5 years. And
Mhm.
you know, I think for all, we all went through, you know, COVID wasn't that long ago. We all went through a
Mhm.
kind of like collective suffering through that time. And so
Yeah.
it's funny, isn't it? Because suffering is a really difficult subject for Christians. It can be a really wrestle. It is a real wrestle of a subject. And for some people, it can be the barrier, or the thing that they say is the barrier to faith. And so
Absolutely.
to have like a song that's woven faith and suffering all in one, which kind of is the gospel in many ways,
Yeah.
is really powerful. We'll stop for some more music and pick up the conversation with Laura after this. You're listening to Cross Rhythms Plymouth. I'm in conversation with Laura Goldthorp, who is a musician, singer-songwriter based out of Exeter. We talked a bit about one of her most recent songs, The Swell, which is a beautiful song, really powerful. And one of the things I kind of wanted to touch on before we kind of move on to other things was, you know, it talks really beautifully and really powerfully about the subject of suffering. And I think the thing that's beautiful about music and about art in general is it kind of cuts through sometimes just straight to the heart. And there's lyrics in there and kind of the melody and just the general way that it speaks, I think really, for me anyway, really got through to the heart. And just, you know, suffering is one of those difficult subjects. I've heard brilliant talks talking about suffering, and, you know, Christian talks talking about, you know, maybe apologetics around suffering and around how you can kind of still hold on to faith in the face of suffering and things. But there's something about art doing that. There's something about music doing that,
Mm.
which to me is quite powerful. So, I mean, that's not really a question, but I don't know if you want to speak to any of that, of just kind of the way in which you found that. Have other people commented on that with that song, or has that been the case for you?
No, I totally agree with that. Like music has a special way of getting through to us when we don't want to hear like spoken words. I don't know. I think
Mm,
so one thing my friend once said to me was whether when you're like sharing like the truth about Jesus, like a whisper is as powerful as a shout. Like
mm,
actually, and I think that's the thing with songs, they kind of whisper truth to your soul because you're kind of experiencing them in a different way. Like music is so powerful and actually it's really interesting because apparently only like 70% of people will not listen to the lyrics on a first listen of a song or something.
wow.
So it
Yeah.
takes a few listens. So I almost feel like it's kind of a way of like whispering truths to people through a song. They might not think they're going to get like a sermon or like challenging or encouraging, but they're like it's kind of like a more gentle way of getting through to people. And so yeah, I don't know. I just think music has this incredible way of speaking to our souls, and I think that's totally by God's design. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you speak to the Field Lily girls, they'll have tons of stories of back now and back when they were in Wildwood Kin of people really being ministered to through their music and just kind of a
Mm.
like gentle way of getting through to people. Um, is so cool that music does that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And you were the recipient of that, right? Like you know, with being a fan of Wildwood Kin, I remember we spoke at the showcase. You
Mm,
said that they were part of you coming to faith. They were in the mix of stuff which spoke to you, and them, and like lots of other music that we play here on Cross Rhythms. You know, they're people who have a faith, who would call themselves Christians. They're not putting
mm,
out music that necessarily is, they're saying is Christian music, whatever that means.
yeah.
Uh, but it's just, you know, influenced by their faith, and so their faith and their personal journey of faith speaks through that, which is definitely your case with your music and with the Swell and things. But yeah, like you say, Field Lily, Wildwood Kin, that was their journey too. So like, do you want to speak a little bit about your journey of faith? Because you've been releasing music, as we touched on in the first section, like from when you didn't have a faith. I remember when we were at the showcase, I said, "Oh, I'd listen to some of your stuff on Spotify," and you kind of like, you sort of
Oh,
hid your eyes a little bit and were like, "Oh, it's really bleak." I was like, "What?" I was like, "It sounds really good," and you were like, "Yeah, I was a different person back then." So I don't know if you want to speak to some of that and your journey with it.
yeah. I've not really spoken much about this, but I guess yeah, I didn't become a Christian until I was probably like 22. And so it's like 6 years ago now. So, um, yeah, and like before that, that was when I was really cutting my teeth writing music. So I've been doing it since I was like 16 or 17. So I had, and at the time, there was this like certain brand of like sad girl songs that were like, it was very in.
Like
And I
Lana
just
Del Rey
really,
kind of vibes and
yeah,
that kind of,
exactly
yeah.
Lana Del Rey. So I kind of went in on that, and like I think at the time, like if you listen to my music, like it is quite hope. It doesn't offer any hope. It is quite bleak, like the lyrics, and actually like that really speaks to kind of the place that I was in. Like I really did not have a hope. And I genuinely felt there's a line in one of my songs called Candy Shops, which says it's only downhill from here. And I really
Yeah.
did believe that. I really did. Like I just thought like these are my golden years, and after that it's all downhill. Like but actually I can safely say years on that that's not the case. Life only gets more beautiful and richer and deeper. And I guess it was becoming a Christian, finding Jesus, that gave me that hope that I could cling to, and that kind of confidence that I could stand on. Um, that yeah, like whatever happens, whatever the circumstance, like God will bring us through, and there's always hope. And
Mm.
yeah, and so I guess yeah, that was kind of my journey. And I after kind of becoming a Christian, I actually did want to stop music. And just sort of, I don't know, I was kind of like, God, I don't really want to do it unless you're in it. And then a few years later, he just started giving me these songs, and I was just in a bit of a patch of writing loads of music that was all kind of about my faith. And I was like, well, it looks like you want me to do this now. So yeah, so it kind of all spiraled from there, and my music sounds very different now. And I hope it is full of hope and joy and all the things that God gives us when we become Christians, the fruits of the Spirit. Like, I hope that that's clear in the songs that I write, is that I'm a changed person, but by grace alone, like nothing I could have done, you know? So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
hope that's clear in my music. And I hope it's something that Christians and non-believers
yeah,
can kind of
for
find
sure.
find meaning in. Yeah.
I think that's the kind of thing, isn't it? It's not about it being an exclusive thing. It's not about it
Yeah.
being like a churchy thing in the sense of like the only way you can engage with it is if you step for a church or whatever. It's like
Yeah.
just engage with it as music, enjoy it
Yeah.
as music, and then, as you say, the lyrics kind of wash over you. But it's really interesting you say that about that line from Candy Shops, because I listened before this interview. I listened to just your stuff on Spotify, like hit play on the top song, and the top song goes Candy Shops into the Swell. We talked about this
Mhm.
off air a little bit. And it's really interesting because there's definite similar, it's still you. So there's definite similarities stylistically. Um, and obviously, as you said earlier, like the Swell is kind of a sort of more downbeat song anyway by its nature. Um, but it's profoundly hopeful, it's profoundly faith filled, it's profoundly kind of looking at what God's doing in the suffering in a real wrestle, not as a
Mhm.
like, oh, just denying that it's difficult, but like really saying this is horribly painful and yet there's hope. And the Candy Shops, you said that line like it's all downhill from here. I was listening to it just before this interview, and then like listening to the song, listening to the lyrics, listen to that lyric, and I was like, wow, that's really different. And then like it was just funny that you brought that lyric up, because that to me, then flowing into listening to the Swell, is like you can see your journey. So I love the fact you have that stuff on Spotify, because you can just literally lyrically hear the journey you've been on, and the way
Yeah.
that the song about the challenges of life and being like, oh well, it's all downhill from here, it's all pointless. And then also a song years later of you actually probably dealing with more difficult stuff than you were
Yep.
back then, and yet feeling more hopeful, which is kind of seems a bit of a paradox.
I
Anyway,
hope, yeah, yeah.
sorry, go
No,
on. No,
no,
go
I
on.
was gonna say I hope younger people will like listen to it and like, yeah, kind of are like, yeah, that this is like they listen to the Swell more than they listen to Candy Shops, because
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
But it's kind of cool to, I think there's something in listening to both in a way, like hearing the
That's
journey,
a good
hearing
point. Yeah,
the
I like that.
transformation and stuff. So anyway, we're going to stop for some music. We have run out of time on this section. We said this was going to be the last one, but we've got too much to say. So let's do one more and talk with Laura a bit about kind of next steps, where people can find out more about you and follow your stuff and all that kind of good stuff. We'll talk with Laura after this. You're listening to Cross Rhythms Plymouth. I'm in conversation with Laura Goldthorp. We've had a really great conversation, Laura. Loved that we've kind of touched on various different things. Heard your track, The Swell, as well, which is a really beautiful song. You've got new music since then as well, Nazare, which is all to do with a place that is great for surfing. So speaks to our love of surf. I'm sure it's got more deeper meaning than that. You might want to touch on that in a second. But I suppose what's next for you, and where can people find out more about you, and where can people listen to your music, and more importantly, support you? Because there's one thing listening to artists' music these days, and another thing actually supporting them sometimes. So tell us a bit about that.
A lot of questions.
Yeah, just a few.
Uh, well, in terms of like what's next, I just released a song today called Nazare, and I'm releasing an EP sort of early September, date to be confirmed. But I mean, one way that you could support me is you could follow me on Spotify. So my artist name is Laura Goldthorp, no E on the end. And then the same on Instagram as well. That's like the best way to kind of keep up to date with what I'm doing. And yeah, I would just love it if you could listen to my music. I'm still kind of making my way as a Christiany faith-based artist, and it's actually quite hard to do. It's a hard kind of world these days to release music in. So anyone that would be up for listening would just be it would just be the best thing ever. But yes, an EP coming out in early September and a new song out today called Nazare. So yeah.
Nice. Amazing. Amazing. And have you got any shows planned, or is that kind of more of a wait and see situation?
I'm hoping to do an EP launch event, which is kind of in the works at the moment. So yeah, I'll have details about that on my Instagram when that's more confirmed. But yeah, and hopefully I'll be playing some more shows. Nothing booked as of yet, but we'll see what happens after
Mm,
this EP coming out. Hopefully, someone will want to book me. But yeah, it's
awesome.
kind of yeah, just chill at the moment, just releasing music.
Great stuff. Love it. Love it. So that's Laura Goldthorpe, spelt as you'd expect with no E on the end. So search her on Spotify, on Instagram, and yeah, give her a follow, listen to her music. Laura, thank you so much. It's been great to speak to you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.